I think we're at a key point in our evolution as a species in terms of what our proper role is for coexisting with this planet that's teeming with life. And we're at a point now where we're within what E.O. Wilson calls the sixth great extinction spasm. The difference with this extinction spasm, it's caused all by human activities. And we have a responsibility to the planet and to future generations in terms of mitigating our footprint and reducing our impact to this enormous wealth of life that we've inherited and are passing on to the next generation. And climate change and the loss of species are the two biggest crises that we face on this planet today in terms of our long-term future. We have a very unique point in our time when we can turn this around. We can be the solution. We can reduce our carbon footprint. We could reduce our consumption, our wasteful consumption of natural resources. We could seek other building materials and not use old-growth rainforests to construct materials from. There's a lot of things that we can do proactively. We can be involved in the policy making that happens, the sausage making that happens in Washington, D.C., by supporting conservation groups, by writing to our senators and representatives about the issue of biodiversity loss and conservation and climate change. And we can join conservation groups. Here at the National Center for Conservation Science and Policy, our website has materials on it for members to become involved in action alerts that have a policy outcome, and in joining the organization and learning more about it through our very effective newsletter. And we typically use members in action alerts to send responses or replies to their senators or congressmen to take action on specific conservation issues that are science-based. The National Center for Conservation Science and Policy is a science and policy think tank and action tank. And we're a staff of 7, primarily consisting of science professionals that are trying to reach out to the policymakers. The way the organization is headed now in the coming months is more increasingly involved in the issue of climate change and how to reduce our carbon footprint and prepare for the changes that will come about so that we could preserve as much of the biodiversity of this place, the Klamath-Siskiyou, and of our nation as we can as we go through climate change. So increasingly our programs are going to be applying the best available science to come up with policy solutions that will be pitched to the decision makers so that we can get effective policy changes and become part of the solution to correct for the climate change impacts that are coming. We live in a world that's teeming with life, but is facing an unprecedented biodiversity crisis. And if we don't act soon, we could be seeing the loss of species that hasn't occurred on a geological time scale, let alone our lifetime. And the biggest issues we face today across the planet are the loss of biological diversity due to the loss of the natural world. We're simply logging our forest at a rate that cannot be sustained, whether it's in the tropics or in the temperate world. These are very unique systems that need to be protected for future generations. And on top of that, we now have the sleeping giant, climate change, which is insidious and is increasing in its impact to the natural world. And we have a responsibility to future generations to come up with some solutions now. We've only got a few decades to do this in. And overall, I think we need to be working on a planetary scale to reduce our carbon footprint, to reduce our wasteful consumption of natural resources, and to consider where all our products come from, because they have impacts on this planet. And is there a way to cut our consumption and to find other products that don't have as much of an impact on the world, and to not use a 1,000-year-old tree in home construction? I mean, there are all kinds of ways that we could reduce our impact, lower our energy consumption, and be part of this solution. But time is running out. We don't have a lot of time left to really turn things around if we're going to have this planet teeming with life for future generations. We have to act now. There's no room for inaction anymore in terms of our time frame.